Hello, this is Phil Thatch, and in this video, I'm going to take you to Walt Disney World with me, where I used the Sony a6700 and two lenses, the 11mm f1.8 Sony lens and the 18-50 continuous f2.8 Sigma zoom lens for Sony APS-C E-mount cameras. And we're going to start right here at Bay Lake Tower. This is the hotel where we stayed, and we went up to the roof and stood right about here. We are on the roof of Bay Lake Tower right now at the top of the World Lounge, which is right over there. 16th floor, looking over at Magic Kingdom. And in the foreground there, you can see Space Mountain and the new Tron roller coaster. And using the Sony a6700 and the Sigma 18-50, I made a shot just setting the camera here on this ledge where my hand is. I guess you can see my hand sitting on that ledge. I made a couple of shots of those two coasters. Here is the photo of those two roller coasters. In the foreground here on the left-hand side of the screen is Space Mountain, which is an indoor roller coaster that's been there at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom theme park for years and years, decades and decades. And on the right-hand side of the screen is the new roller coaster, the Tron roller coaster, which is the newest thing, and we got to ride it for the very first time on this trip. And it has a lot of the roller coaster is indoors in this building over here on the right-hand side of the frame, but some of it is outdoors and under this beautiful canopy, which has all these lights in it. And they change colors and intensities, but most of the time it's blue. And the roller coaster is light cycle run. It's the Tron cycles from the movie. And it's like you're sitting on a motorcycle. And this is 1/25th of a second. So I've caught the coaster as it's going by here. And I've got motion blur in it, which I did that on purpose. I definitely wanted it to have the blur look to show the speed of the roller coaster. So here is the first picture I'm sharing with you from our Disney trip. And it's of a theme park, but we're not even at the theme park yet. The first park we went to was Disney's Hollywood Studios. So we traveled from up here around the Bay Lake area down to the Hollywood Studios theme park, which is here. And we went to the new Star Wars area, and we rode the Rise of the Resistance attraction, which is absolutely amazing. This satellite picture doesn't show that area completed yet, but it actually has been completed for a few years now. But the Rise of the Resistance attraction is huge. The entrance to it is over here, and the show building is this entire huge building. It's just amazing. And there's one shot that I've gotten a couple of times, and it's this shot right here. On the attraction, you're traveling in a Rebel spaceship and you're captured in a tractor beam by an Imperial Star Destroyer, and you're taken into this area, which I guess is the hangar area. And when you come off of that captured ship into this area, you only have just a few seconds to get this shot. And I actually walked past the cast member who was supposed to lead us out of the ship and into this area so I could get this shot really quick. It's a 1/320th of a second shot, wide open at f1.8 ISO 2000. This is just an absolutely huge area. And all of these stormtroopers that you're seeing here, these aren't people in there. These are animatronics, but they do move around some. And they're 6 feet tall, and there's 50 of them. That'll just give you an idea of how absolutely huge this area is. And I made this shot last year as well, but I think I did a better job of it this year. One of the main attractions, especially from a photography point of view at the Hollywood Studios theme park, is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. And it's located on the other side of the park, kind of far away from the Star Wars area. And you have Sunset Boulevard, just like the Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, and it leads down the road. And in the background of that road is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. And we were kind of walking around the middle of the park, and you could see the Tower of Terror in the distance. And there were some kind of foreboding clouds in the sky and some direct sunlight at the same time shining on the Tower of Terror. I said, oh man, that's awesome. I got to get a shot of that. So we scurried down here and went down Sunset Boulevard. And by the time I got to about right here where I wanted to make my shot, the great light on the building had dissipated. But the light was still pretty good on the building. Not as great as it was when I was across the other side of the park. But there were some boat-tailed grackles, quite a few boat-tailed grackles that were hanging around at the park that day. They're opportunistic feeders. They will steal your French fry if you don't keep an eye on it. And right as I was framing up the shot, a bunch of boat-tailed grackles flew into the frame, and I was so happy to get this shot. I used the Sigma 18-50 at 39.5 millimeters. I stopped it down to f4, ISO 100. All these are handheld
1/400th of a second. Pretty happy with the way this Tower of Terror shot came out there on Sunset Boulevard at Disney's Hollywood Studios theme park. Another famous landmark in both the Hollywood Studios theme park and Los Angeles, California, is the Chinese Theater. And here it is right here. I made a photograph of it during Blue Hour. I was standing way back somewhere in this area when I made this shot. This is also with the 18 to 50 millimeter lens. This is wide open at f2.8, handheld, 1/20th of a second, ISO 640. And I tried to not overexpose the bright areas, which is the brightest area is right here at this neon sign for the attraction that's inside Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And I came pretty close to blowing it out, and I did this all in one shot, no tripod, handheld, and just kind of lifted the shadows and brightened things up to where everything was sort of evenly exposed. It's not perfect. I definitely would have done better with a tripod and multiple exposures, but for handheld, all in one shot, I thought this turned out pretty good. There's a nighttime show at Disney's Hollywood Studios called Fantasmic, and it takes place at this huge amphitheater over here. It almost seems like you're leaving the park when you go into this thing. And it is really an amazing show. Has lots and lots of fountains and performers and fireworks and lasers and projections and just all sorts of stuff in this theater. And we were sitting about right here, kind of in the handicap row at the very top of this area. And I made this one shot that I liked enough to keep. It's a 50 millimeter shot with the 18 to 50 f2.8 lens. It's wide open at 2.8, 1/250th of a second, ISO 400. And you can see Mickey Mouse here at the front of the stage with the spotlights on him. And you can see all the fountains going as they go all the way around the stage, and lots of the lights and kind of some smoke and fog in the air. I thought it turned out pretty cool. The next park that we visited was Epcot. And the first photo I made was right around this area right here. There's all these bridges that go across this waterway. And right here at the corner, standing right here on this concrete, was a mallard hen. And she was very tame. She's a wild animal, but she was very tame. She's used to people walking by her all day long at this theme park. And I was using the Sigma 18 to 50. No 200, no 500, no 800, no 400, just 50 millimeters. And I was able to get close enough to her to fill the frame and make this shot, which I thought turned out really nice at 1/250th, wide open at f2.8 and 100 ISO. As we moved on through the park, I ended up doing some more bird photography with 50 millimeter lens right over here in this area as you go around the World Showcase Lagoon. This little area right here had lots of ibis, white ibis, and they were kind of hanging around on this hill and occasionally up on the railing, and they will get your food. If you're eating some food, they're opportunistic feeders, they'll get your food. Using just the Sigma 18 to 50, I was able to get this shot wide open at f2.8, 1/640th of a second, 50 millimeters, ISO 320. And I'm kind of leaning towards the lake, and the background is the World Showcase area of Disney World's Epcot theme park. And you can see some boca-fied people walking by in the background. So I got that shot, and I got this shot. This is on the grassy hill leading down to the World Showcase Lagoon. Another 1/640th of a second shot. This one's only at 48.2 millimeters, wide open at 2.8 and ISO 320 of these beautiful ibis there at Epcot. My next photos were over here in the France Pavilion, which is a little ways around here. Right here is the France Pavilion, and I was standing in this area, and I made my shot pointing in this direction of the France Pavilion. And here's the shot I made, and this is another shot where I was using the ultra-wide lens, the 11 millimeter, 16.5 millimeter full frame equivalent. I stopped it down from 1.8 to 2.5, 1/320th of a second in ISO 640. I held the camera high above my head to try to get the camera level from an up and down point of view, and that makes the vertical lines on these buildings that I was photographing straight. And it's just a really nice capture of what it's like to be at Epcot. You've got these beautiful surroundings, and you also have a lady with her daughter on the ground blowing her nose. This is Epcot to a T right here. And here's the Eiffel Tower in the background, and it's not actually a full-size Eiffel Tower. Just one of those buildings back there has a little bit of the Eiffel Tower, and it makes it look like the Eiffel Tower is in the skyline way in the distance, but really it's just mounted on top of one of those buildings, just the top portion of the Eiffel Tower. I love the colors of these buildings, and I like these clouds. I exposed for the clouds. For the sky, like right here was about the brightest point of the sky, and I tried to make sure that this area was not overexposed, and then I just kind of brightened up the exposure and reduced the highlights a little bit to get this look right here. Really happy with the way this photo turned out from Epcot. Coming back into the entrance area of Epcot, and this is kind of the central area here. All of this stuff in this satellite picture, it doesn't look like this anymore. This building's been completely torn down, and all of this stuff has been replaced, and it's just opened up to where you can go to this area. You haven't been able to go here for 2 or 3 years, and as of January of 2024, when I made these shots, this is what it looked like. So my first shot was of these rust-colored structures that kind of point up and curve over almost like mushrooms, and some of them, like this one, goes all the way around, but some of them don't go all the way around. And they're just beautiful. And during the day, they're just rust colored. But in the evening, they have these lights shining up on them from the ground, and they really become beautiful. And Spaceship Earth, or the Epcot ball, as most people call it, has been beautiful for years and years. But over the last 2 or 3 years, they've added these lights, which are just beautiful. And they go along with the music that's playing in this area. And I liked having Spaceship Earth kind of in the background of this shot. This is another 11 millimeter shot, handheld 1/50th of a second, f1.8 with a 640 ISO. And I actually had to frame this up like I wanted it. I had to step back into a planner a little bit. Fortunately, I didn't get in trouble while I was doing that. And as you can see, also, it's raining. You can see raindrops falling. And because of the rain, the ground is nicely reflective, which I thought added to the shot quite a bit. Pretty happy with this shot from Epcot. Now, this is another shot of the new area of Epcot. Now I'm looking at Spaceship Earth, the Epcot ball, in the distance, and I'm right on the center line of this new area, which is not shown in the satellite photos. And you can see the rust-colored devices that I photographed earlier over here on the left side of the frame. And these do lean in like this. I have my camera level, but these lighting areas actually do lean in. That's what they look like in person. You can see the straight up and down vertical lines on this building in the background. But the light is nicely reflecting off of the ground here with the rain. So I thought that was nice, and just a beautiful area. This new area is really something there at Epcot. So the next day we finally went to Magic Kingdom, and we went over in this area, and you can see this satellite picture is out of date as well. You can see Space Mountain, which we photographed from the top of Bay Lake Tower right there. And right next to it is where in this picture, they have only just broken ground basically for the Tron Light Cycle run, but it's now open. It's been open for nearly a year now, but this is our first time riding it. And we rode it during the day and during the night. After we got off of our first ride, which was a daytime ride, I made this shot. This is people exiting the roller coaster, and you can get pretty close to the track as it comes by here. And of course, during the daytime, the canopy's not all lit up, so it's nowhere near as cool, but the wheels of the Tron Light Cycles are lit up, so that's pretty cool. And I was at 1.8, so I could get a really fast shutter speed. This time I wanted to freeze the motion of the roller coaster, so I shot all the way up to 1/6400th of a second and kind of froze these people on the roller coaster as they went by. Look at this guy. He's got his hands off the handlebars and is sitting up straight. I think he knew his picture was about to be made. But anyways, pretty cool shot with the ultra-wide lens there as this roller coaster is coming by. And next we went over to the Haunted Mansion, which is over in this area. Actually, we went to lots of places, but I didn't get many photos. But right here is the Haunted Mansion. And this building is up on a hill. And I got this shot, I think we were probably about right here. I think I was probably standing right about here when I got this shot. This is another one of those shots where I cut off the bottom of the frame and I hold my camera level and put my subject in the top of the frame so I can hold the camera level. and have straight lines. And there it is, the Haunted Mansion at Disney's Magic Kingdom theme park. This is a f4 shot with the 11 millimeter Sony lens, 1/4000th of a second, ISO 320. And I don't think I've ever been able to get a shot of this where I wasn't having to point the camera up or have lots of stuff in the way. Of course, I still have lots of stuff in the way, but I still like the way this shot looked. I've got nice sunlight on the mansion with some attractive clouds in the background. So kind of the theme of this video is Walt Disney World photography without a tripod. And I didn't do any fireworks photography at Epcot the night before because the fireworks got basically rained out. But they did do the fireworks show complete here at Magic Kingdom. And this is the castle. And normally we will set up right here. We'll set up right behind this planter, and I'll set up a tripod, and I'll shoot the fireworks show, and I'll do 30-second exposures. Well, this year we did not bring a tripod, so we just set up kind of back here on the crowded Main Street, right around here, dead center in the middle. And I used the 18-50, and I shot vertically and cut off the bottom of the frame to leave myself with a square crop instead of a 2x3. So here's the fireworks shot, and I really prefer to use a tripod for fireworks, but you can get a decent looking fireworks shot without a tripod, and here's an example of that. And this is 1/20th of a second, where normally with a tripod I'll probably shoot 30 seconds. I was shooting at f4, ISO 500, 18 millimeters, and like I say, I shot the shot vertically and cut the bottom of the shot off, left myself with a square crop with pretty straight lines. I mean, I don't think they're perfectly straight, but they're pretty straight. And I got this shot and this one. I think this first one is my favorite, but I also like this one. I made a number of shots, but most of them weren't all that great because the fireworks weren't centered and that sort of a thing, which if you do a long exposure, you'll have enough blasts in the sky to where they're kind of centered. But if you're doing a shorter exposure like these 1/20th of a second shots, sometimes there will be a firework just on one side of the screen or just on the other. But with this one and this one, I was able to kind of capture fireworks in a balanced way. And then we went back over to the new attraction, to the Tron attraction. It's kind of hard to show it to you with this satellite picture, which has basically nothing. But what it has is there's a walkway now, a concrete walkway that goes up a hill to the Tron Light Cycle Run. And we walked up there and rode the roller coaster. And when we got off, I made another shot similar to the one that I made earlier that I showed you from earlier in the day, but this time it's at night at 1/40th of a second instead of 1/6400th of a second. And you can see lots of motion blur in the roller coaster, and I definitely was going for that look. I wanted to show the motion of the roller coaster this time, and you can see the lights of the canopy much better now as well. And then as we left the area, we came back down that ramp that I talked about that you can't see in the satellite picture. And I made this shot. I focused on the Tron logo. This is another 11 millimeter shot, 1/50th of a second. I stopped it down from 1.8 to 2.0 and used ISO 500 for this shot. And you can see the Tron coaster. And I specifically waited until the coaster was going by in this window, for lack of a better description. And it has a little bit of motion blur at 1/50th. So kind of happy with the way this one turned out as well. Pretty cool shot of this amazing new roller coaster that they have down in Florida. So as we were leaving the park, and this was like 11:30 or 11:45 at night, I ended up getting about 32,000 steps in this day, maybe the most steps I've ever gotten in a single day of my life, which is crazy. But you come down Main Street to leave, and then there's kind of a hub down here, and this is a theater. This building here is a theater, and I stood about right here and made some shots with the 11 millimeter lens looking over here. And the cool thing about it was so late that it wasn't crowded. I did have to wait quite a ways. A lot of the pictures in this video, if not all the pictures in this video, have people in them, but I was able to wait and get a window of opportunity to where nobody was in front of this building. And this was the shot I captured of the Toontown Square Theater. It's another 11 millimeter shot with the Sony 11 millimeter lens, 1/50th of a second f2, ISO 100. And once again, I exposed for the brightest part of the frame, which was right here. And this is not as bright as the lights on the front of the Chinese theater were, so I didn't have to expose everything else as dark in this shot as I did in the Chinese theater shot. So I think this one turned out a lot better than the Chinese theater shot. I do wish this shot was made during blue hour instead of complete dark like it is. But if it was during blue hour, there's no way I could have gotten it with nobody in this area, not a soul in this shot, which I love that look. But if it was blue hour, there'd be people all over the place. So that's my last shot from our Disney trip that I did with the Sony. The next park day, we went to Disney's Animal Kingdom, and I used my Canon R7 and the 70-200 2.8. And that day will get its own video that will be coming soon on the channel. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please take a moment and give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell if you want to see some more. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.